Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to episode 251 of the Grunge Bible Podcast. It is Monday, January 12th, 2026. It's the second episode of January, and the boys are back. My name is Ethan Shalloway. I'm joined by Chris Salona. We make up the Grunge Bible Podcast, and we're happy to have you here today as we talk about music, life, and how they connect and what it means to us. I think that's like the grand theme of this podcast, right?
Yeah, I would say so. That's what it comes down to, man.
And we got a loaded episode today. Not that it's different than any other episode, but
it's always loaded.
Yeah, but we lost Bob Weir this weekend. It was the anniversary for David Bowie. Dolores passed away this week.
Dolores O'Riordan of the Cranberries, yeah.
10 years ago, yeah. So just some death, and we talk about death and life on this podcast with music. I mean, that's kind of where the genre is for us. I mean, people are getting older. Yeah. The rockers that we loved are getting older. Sadly, the grunge era is next. They're going to be in their 70s before we know it, and it's
scary to think about.
Yeah, so it's just it's just ever present in the music scene that we like, and the older stuff that we like, and so we're going to take some time and talk about it, and we just got a Grunge Bible episode coming your way.
Yeah,
it's one of those things. So I'm happy to be here.
Do. Yeah, me too, man. How are you today?
Oh man, I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. It's it warmed up here in PA. It's actually a really nice day today. It rained all day yesterday. Makes sense. Collected our boxes of rain, and I'm doing pretty good. The body's holding up as expected. It's hurting, but it's okay. And yeah, I have nothing to complain about. I got a busy couple weeks at the end of the month coming up with some travel and some heavy javelin related events, and I'll be moving all my stuff back to Pennsylvania, so just a busy time, but it's very exciting. I haven't traveled like that in a little bit, so I'm excited to get on the road. I'm a child of the road, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it should be pretty solid.
How are you doing today, man?
I'm good. This was my first week back in the saddle, working full time after a little holiday break, and the, subsequent debauchery that occurs when you have 2 weeks to just do whatever you want. So settled back into some routines, been working hard a little bit. I'm tired, man. I'm pretty beat. Everything's going well though. Had a good week, saw some friends, hung out with some people, lifted well. My mom's birthday was yesterday, so I got to celebrate that with her. A lot of good stuff happening. Football playoffs going on. We were blessed with some good games Saturday, and we're recording this before the first games on Sunday, but should be good. This is we're just settling into winter here now that all the fun and games are done with the holidays. So I'm good though, no complaints. Definitely sore and tired today, but it's a privilege to be sore and tired, as we all know.
It is. Yeah, there's no better feeling to finish a day and be really exhausted, in my opinion.
I agree. You lay your head easy at the end of the day.
Natural drug of life is to be tired and content.
100%. I would agree with that.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're doing well. Hope everybody out there that's listening is also doing well, and we help you start your week and get through your week in the right manner. I know that, like I said, I have my podcast, and there's nothing more comforting than throwing them in on a commute to work or commute to whatever you got going on. So that is our goal. So we're going to keep the waves moving. But we'd like to thank everybody that supports us. That includes all three levels of our Patreon, our $2, $5, and $10 tier. There's like 35 or 40 people right now, I think
38
total.
people are locked into the Patreon. Yep.
We got 38 people back there backing us, and it's always nice to see that number grow. So if you're out there and you're thinking, I like what they're doing, that's our only sponsor we have on this podcast.
That's
the people.
Just the people.
Yeah. So take up your arm or up in arms, or take up your gun and give us $2.
21 guns, fight. Lay down your arms and give up the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. This is the point. This is the point in the episode where I typically thank the members of the top tier over on Patreon. And I'm going to do that. My brain short circuited for a second, and like half of my brain knew that it was my turn to come in with the list, but like the part that is responsible for like transforming the thought into words coming out of my mouth was just a little slow to respond. I was lagging a little bit, but we're back online here. Hopefully, no more service interruptions here in my brain this morning. But we would like to thank the members of the top tier over on Patreon, and as you may know, if you've listened, you do have the ability to create your own membership tier, and we do have a couple of people that are doing that, giving rising to higher levels than that $10 level. We would like to thank Abraham and Frank, way up at the top, followed by the Cracker Man. The rest of the top tier, the aforementioned yesterday's birthday girl, Carlene Salona. Massive thanks to her. Additionally, we would like to thank Jamie Lynn, Doug Endy, What the Fuck is Up, Denny's, Black Hole Sean, Nikki Six, Seattle 4 Fanboy from New Jersey, Eddie Vedder got me through my second divorce, Gochu John, Sherry Matthews, Russell, King Buzzo stole my hair, A Bit Dusty, The Michael Dooley Project, Ultra Mega OK, Heidi in Chains, and Looking California, Feeling Minnesota. Thank you one and all for your continued support, and we're gonna keep ripping this thing as long as there's people that want us to keep ripping this thing. So that's all there is to it.
Thank you one and all. Love it.
You can't kill us, man.
No, you can't. So, as we talked about today, we're going to highlight a few people's careers and talk about, what they meant to the music world. It just felt appropriate. So there may be some people that don't necessarily fall under the grunge name, which is not out of the ordinary here. Yeah. So
there's always through lines though, because
is,
regardless of the type of music that we talk about, both within the grunge genre and a lot of the music that informed the grunge genre and just informs great music and great experience, death is a part of life, obviously, and death is a part of music, and a lot of the people that we look up to, unfortunately, death is something that we always end up talking about, but also just, how you can be moved, by live music, and that's always a through line, I think, particularly with any great genre, grunge, and a lot of the individuals that we're going to be talking about today that have been in the news, their anniversaries of their deaths or their recent passings in the case of Bob Weir. So, these conversations, are applicable to anything that moves you, and, you're moved to various emotions. So we'll be discussing all over the board here today.
Yeah, it's like when your friend comes, or it's like when somebody says no offense, and then they go and offend you. It's like that was our disclaimer of like, don't get mad, but we're going to talk about some other stuff. And another big topic that we probably will get into is like when death happens, like what that does to your listening experience and how
your relationship with it,
right? And how you take it in, how you take in the influence, and all of a sudden you find out all the projects they were in, and you're like, oh my gosh, like look at all this music. So that's going to be pretty present today. So we're going to talk about a few things that happened this day in music, and I like the list because it has people that are unrecognizable, just like, which they always are, but some nice stuff that, they have their own stories and importance and whatnot. So speaking of, in 1970, frontman of the band Rage Against the Machine, Zach De La Rocha, was born.
56 years old today.
56 years old, pretty unreal. He's still raging against the machine. He's still fighting the man. And, just to keep it short and simple for him, I mean, extremely unique, brought an energy that, few people can match, and, wrote songs that were, some people would say simple, but like, totally unique to what they were doing. And they have carved out a space for them that
they were such big pioneers. Yeah, they were big pioneers and certainly, standard bearers and popularized that like kind of rock rap movement that was super, super big in the 90s, right, and so unbelievably unique. And, to take it, and put something behind it that mattered to them is really special. And, their music still hits. I mean, the 4 albums they released, I don't think they'll ever go out of style. And the messages will never not be relevant, and Zach remains such a big driving force behind that music, and just I think social or political expression through music, they immediately come to my mind if you think about artists that do that well. And it goes back to the days of Woody Guthrie all the way through Rage Against the Machine and bands today. It's important, art, you have the opportunity to say something, and that's what you got to do. And he certainly has done that his whole career. and we wish him a very happy 56th birthday. Speaking of like the conversation of, artists growing older and dying, like there's something about like Zach De La Rocha being 56 that like something ain't right about that, and I'm thinking about like all of these artists, like you said, like, it won't be long before some of these people turn 70, and when we were kids, the guys from the 60s were turning 70, and now like, the guys from the 90s are getting up there in their late 50s and 60s, and soon to be in their 70s, and time's moving, man. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, it really is. I remember listening to Rage Against the Machine for the first time finding out that I couldn't believe the sound.
Yeah.
Then I saw Zach and I saw his hair and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's like, this dude's crazy. I mean, he had like a solo project called like, something, The Lion. And it was like a lioness thing. And I remember, it was all right.
it was all right.
Okay. It was okay. But like, just, he made music for, the reasons he had, and it wasn't to be like, I don't think it was to be number one on the charts or anything like that. So it's like, his musical journey was special, right?
Absolutely. That's what you got to do. You got to have something to say. As Willie Nelson once said, you can't make a record if you don't have nothing to say. And ain't that the truth around this neighborhood? Let's move forward to 1974. On this day in 1974, The Joker by the Steve Miller Band hits number one on the charts. I'm telling you, man, that those opening lines, dude, some people call me the space cowboy. Some people call me the gangster of love. Some people call me Maurice because I speak of the pompatus of love. Dude, I'm telling you, the space cowboy, the gangster of love, or just Maurice. If you're not into the whole brevity thing. That's pretty good, dude.
Yeah, man. I thought the song was like the best thing in the world.
Everybody goes through a Steve Miller phase.
The Midnight Toker, man. I mean, it is
We're
something.
pickers, grinners, lovers, and sinners.
Yeah, like
playing our music in the sun. The Midnight Tokers,
dude. Lover. Oh man, it's awesome. It's so much fun to. That's such a fun song. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad it was number one in the charts 51 years ago. 52
now. Yeah, I'm my brain is still short circuiting. Even like for work this week, like it was our first week back, and I had a couple of different meetings, and part of my one of the meetings that I ran was just kind of like talking about like revenue and analytics for my company. And I kept messing up, like referring to 2025 and 2024. Like, is it like last year? Like what's last year? What's it's a disaster. So I'm going to continue to do that with all of these events for at least another month.
Oh yeah.
It's hard.
Moving on to, later that year, right? I mean, not later, same day that year. And this is something that's come up, I think, the last 2 weeks. I feel like we brought it up each time, but Jim Croce's album, You Don't Mess Around with Jim, which includes Time in a Bottle and Operator, hits number one in the U.S. charts 3 months after his death.
Shortly after the death.
Yeah, soon after his death in the plane.
That's a stacked week for Billboard, though. I mean, like The Joker being the number one song and You Don't Mess Around with Jim being the number one album. I mean, that is like you don't get stuff like that anymore on the Billboard Hot 100.
I would agree. Yeah, it's not like that anymore. It's not built around this stuff.
It ain't like that anymore, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, Jim Croce's one of those guys that's always popping up, when it relates to charts or births or deaths,
and that's a good thing.
Yeah,
right? Like keep him out there. Keep him on the headlines.
Absolutely. We're going to move forward to this day in 1990, and on this day in that year, Bob Dylan played what is to this day the longest show in his career, and I don't think he's going to be surpassing this anytime soon, although he's still relentlessly touring. But on this day, January 12th of 1990, he played over 50 songs in a 4-hour, 20-minute show, which of all places happened at Toad's Place, which is like a 700 cap venue in New Haven, Connecticut. And notable, this show is notable because he played a cover of Bruce Springsteen's song "Dancing in the Dark," and this is the only time that Bob Dylan has ever covered Bruce Springsteen. Kind of cool little tidbit, but dude, 4 hours and 20 minutes ripping. That's pretty cool. And Bob Dylan, he's still out there doing it, and we're better for it. Even though I don't have a desire to see him live, but he's out there, man, and it feels good knowing that he's out there.
It's funny, people talk about the long shows and how you just wish you were there. What a special night to be at the longest show. But like in the moment, you're just like, like imagine standing for 4.5 hours listening to Bob Dylan.
At Toad's Place, man. Yeah, I don't know. That'd be tough.
Really everybody wants a long concert, but all of a sudden you're 3 hours in and you're like, holy cow, I'm spent.
Everybody
it's
wants
all wearing off. I'm spent.
Everybody wants the badge of honor of having been at the long concert. Nobody wants to be at the long concert.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, everybody needs chairs.
Dude, we're getting older. We need those chairs.
Mm-hmm. All right, and moving on to 1999. Britney Spears releases her first album, Baby One More Time.
Chokehold this had on the music world, man.
Mention on the pod, Britney Spears.
I think I can say with a high level of certainty that this might be the first time that we've ever mentioned Britney Spears on the Grunge Bible podcast. So
yeah, I can't remember another time.
I mean, she was all over the radio when we were kids, like, you know, packed in the back seats of our parents' cars, like listening to like the top 40 stations. Like Britney Spears was big business, man.
Oh yeah. So I hope she's doing all right.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, we'll have to reach out to our sources and get a status report on that, perhaps. But Ethan, I do have one more event on the This Day in Music calendar, which I neglected to add because I just discovered.
Okay.
But on January 12th, 2021, Ethan Shalloway and Chris Salona recorded the still unreleased pilot episode of the Grunge Bible podcast. We sat down January 12th, 2021 at 9 p.m. and we recorded the pilot episode, which, as I said, we've never released. It was a dry run at the first episode that we did, and we had some connectivity issues, but that was the first time that we turned on Zoom and we decided to cast a pod. And who knows, we might have to release this.
Yeah, it's like our tapes, it's like our basement tapes,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, dude, seriously. This is like, when the box set comes out, this is like the material. It's like, this is the material that comes out. Like somebody smuggled a camera into the recording studio when, Oasis was recording Champagne Supernova or whatever. We have the tapes, man.
Yeah.
And the 10-year anniversary of the page and the 5-year anniversary of the pod are both coming up. It might be time to release the pilot.
Release the files.
Yeah, dude, somebody's got to do it. Hey, I mean, the releasing of files is big business right now. But we could do that thing that is also apparently big business, where like you say that you're going to release the files on day one, and you just find every excuse not to. That seems to be a popular thing that people are doing. So
yeah,
I would imagine that the pilot episode of the Grunge Bible podcast is going to be much less incendiary than some of the other files that people are wanting, to see the light of day. But in the interest of transparency, we may have to release it nonetheless.
Yeah, and so just to give everybody a little preview, I guess.
History lesson.
We tried to talk about Nutshell and I guess the whole jar of flies.
In 2020 in the summer,
whole jar of flies.
We tried to do an episode on that. We don't have those files anymore.
We recorded for like 45 minutes and got through like 2 songs, and we're just like, what are we doing? Like this is like, we're just rambling, and we are way ahead of our skis trying to like figure out what they were.
We put the microphones away for like 7 months after that.
Yeah, and then, it took us out.
And then our take 2 was this pilot episode.
We ruptured our Achilles that night, and we had to sit out for 7 months before we could come back.
Yeah, but we came back. A lot of people thought that we couldn't come back, and we did.
Yeah, they thought they were. Yeah, I mean, they thought it was career ending.
Yeah, but hey,
but we weren't.
Ain't found a way to kill us yet, man.
There you go.
So maybe I'll have
Don't
to
follow.
Yeah, don't try and follow me, man. Might have to. I'll send this to you, Ethan, and we'll see if we want to do something with it. I still have. I have all the files. I have the audio file and the video file. So
yeah, I think it's one of those things where I don't know how, but I think it might be on my iTunes. Like,
I think when we saved I'm sure I might have sent this to you because it felt very monumental to have done one.
Yeah, because I think I saved it like to, and it popped up as an MP3 on my, which is like so funny how it randomly got saved. So everything has changed since then. So
everything has changed, and absolutely nothing's changed.
You never know; it could be good.
You never, it might be good. Maybe
even if it's not good, people will.
It may have been the best episode that we've ever done. That's
what they wanted, but we gave them this.
Yeah, we gave them this instead. So that's This Day in Music for January 12th. This week also marks the 8th anniversary of the passing of Dolores O'Riordan, who was the front person for the band, the Cranberries, as we all know. She passed away January 15th, 2018 at age 46. And this is one that I remember. We had been running the page for almost 2 years at this point, and had certainly been fans of the Cranberries for a while. And this one was unexpected. It was an unexpected passing. And this kind of ties in, a lot of death anniversaries. We just had the anniversary of David Bowie's death on January 10th, which was preempted by his birthday on January 8th. So busy time of the year for, the calendar and commemorating some of these individuals who have passed away. But as we were talking about, there's a through line here with, how your relationship with somebody's music changes, as they pass away. And, I think as it relates to grunge, like we didn't have that marked shift in our relationship with like Alice in Chains or Nirvana, certainly because they'd been, Kurt and Lane had been, deceased for a long time before, either of us were either alive or certainly got into the music. But, we talked about, how, Scott Weiland's death, for example, changed our relationship with STP, and certainly Chris Cornell's death is probably the most, visceral change that I've had, and certainly I think to this point the toughest loss that I've had of a musician that I look up to a great deal. But there's a lot of people out there. We've spent a lot of time, kind of dabbling in the jam band discussion here and there, and the fact Bob Weir passing away on January 10th at age 78 is a big blow, not just for fans of the Grateful Dead, but just music fans in general, and anybody who loves that connection between a person and art, and certainly that feeling that you get when you see art live. It's a big loss for everybody, I would say.
Yeah, it really is. It's the members are down to, I think there's the two remaining founding members of the drummers, Mickey Hart and Bill Kurtzman, and it just sometimes when I remember talking, the frontman to a band passed away, and I knew the drummer. I was like, so is that, is the band done? And it's like, well, the band can continue. Like, we have another vocalist and he could do some of the parts, and like, the band's going to continue type of thing. But there's times when people pass and it's like, it's kind of the final, and, there's no information about the Dead and Co. is going to continue or whatnot. But like, it feels like, this is one of those things where it's like, Bob's gone, and like, that is, I don't know. It kind of seems like, that iteration and that like the Dead is, the Dead is dead.
That's it. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so it's really sad. And I do think that a lot of people, like you said, no matter if you're a fan of them or not, you can respect like exactly the end of an era and kind of the end of, that iteration. But I do think that, like, one of Bob's thing was he wanted the music to outlive him, and he wanted to do a 300-year legacy with the music, and we talked about a lot like this. He's one of those guys that was going to play until he passed.
He
he was going to play until the very last second. It's exactly what he did, and it's really, it's really awesome. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to listen to the music even more intently, I think, the next couple of weeks. It's not like we were around when Jerry passed away,
right,
or had any connection with, this music and this type. But, looking back, and we lost Phil Lesh, the
last
bassist,
year,
about
October of 24.
Yeah. 1 year ago. Yeah. So, 2 in less than a year and a half is pretty significant. Yeah, I don't know. Where do you want to go from here?
Well,
do you want to get into
when Bob Weir's estate and family announced that he passed away? They posted on Bob Weir's Instagram account, and they released a statement, but more of a statement. It was almost like an obituary, and I want to read it because it kind of encapsulates a lot of the way that I think, regardless of what genre you were a large fan of or your favorite genre, like I think it encapsulates perfectly like the connection that a lot of us have with whatever our favorite bands and whatever our favorite musicians are. And it was put so perfectly. So I'd like to read that. So they announced his passing, saying, "It is with profound sadness that we share the passing of Bobby Weir. He transitioned peacefully surrounded by loved ones after courageously beating cancer as only Bobby could. Unfortunately, he succumbed to underlying lung issues. For over 60 years, Bobby took to the road. A guitarist, vocalist, storyteller, and founding member of the Grateful Dead, Bobby will forever be a guiding force whose unique artistry reshaped American music. His work did more than fill rooms with music. It was warm sunlight that filled the soul, building a community, a language, and a feeling of family that generations of fans carry with them. Every chord he played, every word he sang was an integral part of the stories he wove. There was an invitation to feel, to question, to wander, and to belong. Bobby's final months reflected the same spirit that defined his life. Diagnosed in July, he began treatment only weeks before returning to his hometown stage for a 3-night celebration of 60 years of music at Golden Gate Park. Those performances, emotional, soulful, and full of light, were not farewells, but gifts. Another act of resilience, an artist choosing, even then, to keep going by his own design. As we remember Bobby, it's hard not to feel the echo of the way he lived. A man drifting and dreaming, never worrying if the road would lead him home. A child of countless trees, a child of boundless seas. There is no final curtain here, not really. Only the sense of someone setting off again. He often spoke of a 300-year legacy, determined to ensure the songbook would endure long after him. May that dream live on through future generations of deadheads, and so we send him off the way that he sent so many of us on our way, with a farewell that isn't an ending but a blessing, a reward for a life worth living. And that's not even somebody's relationship with art or your relation as an art to, something that you're a fan of, but that's just like a great credence of and a great creed of how to live your own life, even if you're not an artist, even if you don't practice in, the form of creation all the time. I mean, that's just, looking on the bright side, giving more than you take, and, just trying to create a better tomorrow for the people that are going to be there tomorrow, whether you're going to be there or not. And it's just, he was a part of something that was really beautiful, and beauty can be found in all types of art. Encouraging art, sad art, angry art, heartfelt art. And it's just the landscape of beautiful art that you can create is really inspiring, and these guys were able to do it in a way that people were fans of them in the 60s, and they had children, and their children became fans, and those children became fans, and there's like 3 generations of people out there that, were able to be close with one another through the music that Bob Weir was a part of. And I think that's the most inspiring thing about music. And that's what keeps me coming back, is that connection, both that you have with the artist, but also I think about how many relationships I have in my life that have been enriched because we can bond through art like that. Mm-hmm. And what a great gift that is. And that's something that, as was said in that statement, and we talk about it all the time as it relates to the grunge musicians, like that's something that, the amount of time that these artists are here on earth pales in comparison to the amount of time that is going to be spent and that has been spent using their art in order to form and enrich relationships. And, it's just one of those things where, there's heartache, there's pain, there could be shock, when somebody passes away, certainly when somebody passes away unexpectedly. But I think all of those fade away into gratitude as time goes on, and gratitude that they chose to do what they did. And they chose to give these gifts and share them with people because that's always an intentional choice. These things don't happen by accident. You have to choose to put pen to paper. You have to choose to put your hands on a guitar. You have to choose to release music. And, anybody out there that's ever released music, there's always at least one other person out there that's life has been made better because they chose to do that. We always kind of talk about like the mythology of music in the sense that, nobody knows what's going to happen when something's released, but, there's no mythology about the choice that people make to create. And that's really comforting, and that's something that's never going to end. And, once something is created, there's no telling where it's going to go, and there's no telling who it's going to impact. And, I sit here today not really being a particularly large fan or certainly a knowledgeable person as it relates to, the Grateful Dead or Bob Weir and everything that he did in his career. But, I know that my life is better because I've had interactions through this music, and I've developed relationships, and I've had good conversations with people because of this music. And, not even relating to the X's and O's of the songs or the lyrics, but there's just that feeling that you get. And it's just really, I have a lot of gratitude for Bob and for everybody that's chosen to do this with their life.
Yeah. Well said. I think that, the band, they had an ethos around them of letting everybody be themselves and just listen to the music and be welcome. And, the Dead started in 65, right? That's, 60 years as we talked about. And,
long time.
And there's like this vast history and, like you said, music tapestry that was woven, that they played, and they had how many people played in the Dead is countless. And then, you know, Bob specifically had 3 other bands or projects all the time. You know, he had Further, Rat Dog, Bob Weir and the Wolf Bros. He had Phil and Friends. Yeah, obviously the Dead and Company we're going to get to. Like, I mean, they played music with all these other people, members from, you know, just other bands are stepping in and playing, and
Totally.
and you have this music landscape that just reaches, and it's very connected. It's interwoven in ways, and you know, they had a pretty big, say, break where they didn't play together, and that was, you know, ended when John Mayer in 2015 started listening, was inspired by Bob Weir, and he kind of, like, I think they've been on a late night show and played and had a bond, and they wanted to start playing together. And I think the first show was in 2016, so 10 years ago. The Dead and Co's been playing, and I just want to bring up the significance, or how I view the significance through all of this is, you know, when we were growing up, I mean, my dad's not a Deadhead, so, like, I mean, it wasn't listened, and I think it wasn't prevalent in the music, you know, the early 2000s, like that. Certainly, you know, jam music. There was definitely a hole, and everybody was doing all the post grunge stuff, and it was like the Britney Spears of the world and all that, right? And you know, and it was just fathers or mothers, like, showing, you know, listening to the music that they like to, and maybe showing their kids. But then in 2016, you had this really interesting opportunity where you had three of the founding members of the Dead, plus John Mayer, somebody who is very, you know, obviously important and big in, you know, kids' eyes or young adults' eyes, and that was us. And it was a combination of these two worlds. And then they went on tour and they started playing, and then all of a sudden, you know, I know a lot of people that there was a serious connection being made between fathers and sons, or yes, fathers and daughters, and mothers and just people, because they got to go to these concerts together and go on, you know, show runs. And, like, I mean, really, I know a bunch of people that that was when I got closest to my father. That was when I got closest to, you know, these people, and you know, it's super special, and reintroduced the jam and rock and roll in a really productive way in the last 10 years. And, you know, a lot of people complained about, complain about the project, or, you know, as a money grab or certain things, but I think that it came from, it came from a great space, and they kept the music alive. And I think that was, like, one of the biggest things about, you know, the biggest themes for the Dead is the music was, you know, kind of most important, and they loved playing, and they always wanted to. And, you know, it's just really special to think about all the, you know, interactions, like kind of what you were talking about, and then all the friendships and just relationships that were formed, even in the past 10 years, but that were the groundwork was laid, you know, 60 years ago. Yeah. And on top of all of the other, like I said, Phil and Friends and all the other bands, like, that they were doing, and you can go there and watch a different concert, but it's still connected in a very close manner to where it all started.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing that I always hang my hat on with this, because I think, you know, in a lot of ways, I think the Grateful Dead were really one of the first groups that kind of established themselves within, like, that ethos of having a cult following, where, you know, it's about going to the show, and it's about being at the show, you know, with people that you know, and even people that you don't know, and just being there for one common purpose. And as a music fan, like, you know, I have my bands that, like, I don't miss when they come through, and I have my people that, like, you know, for different bands, like, I have, like, my people that I go to, like, you know, hard rock shows with, and I have people that I go to pop punk shows with, and I have people that I go to other shows with, indie shows with, like, and it's just, like, I think there's such a great testament to the importance of, like, being a part of the community, and being in any community, being a part of a community for something that you're passionate about. I mean, and there's a lesson in here, even down to, like, joining your local run club or something. You know, if there's something that you feel, if there's something, you know, that adds to your life, like, there are other people out there that feel the same exact way, and it's important to be a part of that. And, you know, because there's so much that you have to gain, and there's so much that can illuminate your life through it. Because I mean, there's people that saw hundreds of shows, you know, whether it be the Dead or Dead and Company or any of Bob Weir's side projects, like, In the same way, like, there's people that have seen over 100 Pearl Jam shows. There's people that have seen over 100 Wonder Years shows, which, God willing, I'll get up to be doing the same thing in time. But yeah, it's just, they're just such a great example of like what you have to gain as a person from, being within a community of something that you're passionate about. And you could tell that meant a great deal to these guys when they played. And you can tell that like, it's in the forefront of everybody's mind who chose to buy tickets to go and see them, or who discovered their music and talked about it with their friends. I mean, and everybody's eye was on the ball, so to speak, in that regard.
Yeah. I just remember, getting into it. I felt like I missed the boat, right? And it's like, I would have really enjoyed this music if I was born during that time. And sometimes my early frustrations with, say, Deadheads, or it felt like you said, there has a cult personality, and there was like a little gatekeeping going on, and I didn't know how to really introduce. And I think those walls have been broken in the last 10 years because of the just the resurgence of the Dead and Co. And then on top of that, you have say Bob's playing his own show at the Capitol Theater. He's playing, Bob Weir and the Wolf Bros, and then he brings out Rick from Goose, and then he brings out Tedeschi Trucks, and you have, other bands in the genre are being, propped up by the legends that everybody grew up. So all of a sudden you get this like, it's like a pass, right? I mean, it's like, if Trey Anastasio believes in them, then I'm going to give it a shot. And,
it's about breaking down walls.
And I think there's just been so much collaboration in this music community over the last like 15 years. And I think Warren Haynes, he put on the Soul Shine, and it's like everybody's playing with everybody, and like, it's just awesome, right? And it's like, you get everybody at once, but it really does break down all those, preconceived barriers to entry that is great. And I think that it's getting better and better all the time, and that happens in other genres a little bit, but like this, like, the rock and roll and the storytelling and like the jam band genre has been really vibrant the last 10 years, I think, and I think it's a big to do with the Dead and Co., which is funny because it all started with the Grateful Dead, and now they're kind of able to do it at another stage of everybody's life, and brought all the old guys back to concerts, got them out of the house and whatnot.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that you brought up Warren Haynes, because that guy is a legend in his own right, and he's played with everybody under the sun, including Bob Weir, and he's such a thoughtful person, and anytime anybody passes away, Warren Haynes always, on social media, he'll release his thoughts about it. And earlier this morning, he put a post up about Bob Weir, and I know I already read the statement from Weir's family, but Warren Haynes, this is just some beautiful writing, which I think explains what we're trying to say, perhaps a little bit better than we're able to say it. So if I may, I'd love to read what Warren had to say about Bob Weir's death. He said, R.I.P. Bob Weir, not how any of us wanted to start this year. This is a major loss to the world of music and to our extended family. Losing Bob this close to losing Phil is quite a blow. Bob was an enigma, a beautiful enigma. As the youngest member of the Grateful Dead, he brought, as they all did, his unique personality and take on music into the mix. The Grateful Dead was the true epitome of the whole being greater than the sum of its parts. And as great as each of those parts was, the whole thing was truly a synergy that happened to exist as its own enigma in the beginning, but grew into a space and time. I just lost the shit.
That happens, man.
This will happen. We got to do it live.
2026.
That happened to exist as its own enigma in the beginning, but grew into a space and time based on the dedication to a like-mindedness at a moment in musical history when everything lined up in a way that could never happen again. They learned and grew together in a way that can only be described as familial, and what they discovered through psychedelic exploration and experimentation led not only to an approach to music that had never been taken before, but to the creation of a whole new genre of music. Bob was an integral part of this metamorphosis. His voice was the ultimate contrast and complement to those of Jerry Garcia and Ron McKernan, and his songwriting drew from entirely different influences as well, including rhythm and blues, reggae, cowboy songs, jazz, and classical music. His guitar playing defied traditional rhythm guitar as it existed prior. And although he and Garcia forged their styles together, their approaches couldn't have been more different, with Bob parts invariably seeming to add a sense of mystery and undefinable uniqueness to the music. Having played with Bob countless times through the years, I was always struck by his imitable style and approach, which was such a huge part of the Grateful Dead's musical tapestries. When asked about this in an interview years ago, I was quoted as saying, "Bob's very unique chord shapes and rhythmic patterns push you to play differently and outside yourself. He was, very naturally, leading you into a lot of bobbing and weaving, counterpoint and call and response, and he has this wonderful sense of not needing to compare this moment to any other moment. Every song, every performance gets approached with a fresh outlook. It's an intangible thing, but it's so crucial to all he does." When you combine that with the amount of great songs he wrote or co-wrote through the years, some of my favorites being Cassidy, Jack Straw, Estimated Prophet, the other one, and Looks Like Rain, his place in the music pantheon is solidified. Aside from that, he was a genuinely beautiful human being, and I am honored to have known him as a friend and to have played together the many, many times that we did. I will cherish those memories, and the world of music will keep his spirit alive. And like coming from somebody who in his own right, I think is one of the greatest living guitarists and musicians in Warren Haynes, if Warren Haynes has, undying respect for something that you did, like, that you did something unbelievably well. And, for somebody like Warren, who, as I said, has played with just about everybody under the sun, for him to cherish the moments that he had, is as great of an endorsement to your musical ability and creativity as anybody could get.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. It's, as a musician, hearing him talk about, playing and what Bob, how he approached playing music and commanded the stage and allowed people to come and go. Like, I mean, it's so special. And I think of instances and how every artist and musician is different and adds something to it. In a Rolling Stone, they released something talking about his passing and just like a quick synopsis. But they said that, they had a quote from Bob Weir, and he, this is him talking about wanting to outlive the band or having the band outlive him.
Sure.
And he said he had a little flash while he was playing one night back in 2016. And he said it was towards the end of the tour. I don't remember what city it was in. And we were getting into the second set, setting up a tune, and we were all playing, but the tune hadn't even begun yet. We were all feeling out the groove, just playing with it. And suddenly I was 20 feet behind my own head, looking at this and I kind of happy with the way the song was shaping up. And I started looking around, and it was 20 years later, and John's hair had turned gray and Attell's had turned white. And I looked back at the drummers, and it was a couple of new guys. And I looked back at myself at the back of my head, and it was a new guy. And it changed my entire perception of what we were up to. And that's Bob Weir talking about, when they started the Dead & Co. and how, he took a third person view and saw the band, saw John playing later with a different member than him and saw a different drummer, and seeing the importance of and I just love how it's like we started playing together and setting up the tune, but it really hadn't even begun yet. And it's like, that's like I don't know, that's like one of those maestro type of things. It's like we were playing, but we were just getting into we were figuring it out as we go. And I just love that third person attitude, and how, he was very he knew what was going on.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing. And I think that's such a cool way to approach it. He was probably talking about a song that they had played he's played hundreds of times. And if you think about it, it's like, he hasn't played that one song 400 times. He's played 400 different songs. And every single opportunity you have to play something that you've created in the past is an opportunity to create it new and to breathe new life into it. And you can tell a lot of times too, when, if a band's just kind of methodically or objectively approaching something that they made. And it's I have to hit these notes at this time and stay in time. And then you can totally tell too. And they're creating something new. And Eddie Vedder had a quote about that, something similar, when he was talking about how you really can't mail in a song like Jeremy, and you have to be present for it, and you have to breathe new life into it and create it anew every single time you attempt to play it on stage. And that's the truest form of expression. And this is why you have people that are fans of the Grateful Dead that never listen to the studio stuff, and it's always the live stuff, and they have their favorite eras, and they have their favorite shows, and they have their favorite performances out of the hundreds of these songs in the times they performed live. And anytime you approach something with that level of intent, there's somebody out there that's going to connect with it, and that's going to become their favorite thing that you've ever done.
Right.
And they'll share it with people, and it just kind of continues that community. But, it's kind of, to be as successful as they were, and know, it's like, you're not setting the stage for what you're doing now, but it's like, you're continuing to forge the path that like other people are going to follow. That's such a cool thing. And like, that kind of like gives me chills thinking about it. It's like, you're on stage and like you're picturing, 20 years from now, like, you're not going to be there. Most of the people on stage that you're with right now aren't going to be there, but the music and the feeling behind it is still going to be there, because that never really goes anywhere. And it's always something that's going to be picked up by the next generation and the younger people. And, so as long as there's people out there, there's going to be people connecting with each subsequent iteration of that feeling that you've tried to capture and that you try to capture every time you play.
Yeah, I just picture the end of the documentary, right? And it starts in '65, and all the original members are playing Estimated Profit. And as the song goes on, it's like slow mo, and the music's playing in the back. And then one guy dissolves, and a new guy shows up and takes his place.
Yeah,
and another guy dissolves, and a new guy takes his place. And by the end, the whole band is different, but the music is the same, and the message is the same, and the crowd has changed, but also not changed at all. And, they carry the torch and they move on. And it's just, it's a beautiful aspect of music, and an opportunity we have to, connect history. I think, the storytelling, the history behind all of this is kind of like, I think, where we're most interested in finding. And it's the right genre to do it. I think, you get it in some other ways. But man, yeah, it'll be fun to kind of listen a little differently in the next couple of weeks and whatnot. I think that, and then finding the next band or the next thing, and see what the Dead and Co do. I mean, they're definitely going to have a tribute to Weir, and it's an interesting. It's just a full topic and a full set of thoughts here we have going through our heads right now with all this, and I'm happy to be able to talk about it and, kind of get into it a bit.
Yeah, dude. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's been really good. So I don't know. It's hard to put it all into one, one room here, and all the thoughts.
And you talked about like the whole thing about missing the boat. And like, I think a lot of times, like, if you've missed the boat, or like if an artist has passed away long before you've discovered them, or if they pass away and like you haven't really done anything, it's like, oh, well, like it's over now. Like I don't need to, like I'm kind of discouraged at getting into it, but kind of tying it in, this was years ago, and I'm sure I've mentioned this on the podcast, but John Mayer wrote something about, the connection that you can have with good music. And he said, great music never shames you for taking so long to find it. It is only excited that you did. Welcome. We've got a lot of lost time to make up for. You can never say you don't like a kind of music. The best you can say is that you don't like it yet. And, that's the encouraging part, no matter like where along the journey you find it, in the same way that like, we found like the grunge genre, 15 years after its heyday.
Is there by chance a year associated with that quote?
He wrote it. I have it screenshotted in like 2020 from his Instagram story where he posted it. So it was a while ago.
From what I understand, he didn't listen to the Dead very much until the 2015. He found them on Pandora, and was listening to, he
That's
knew
wild.
him before, but he started listening. He was actually really infatuated by Jerry Garcia's playing and how he went about playing, and he got really, went all in on listening to them, like, and this is just 10 years ago, and then met Bob and formed a bond, and then made it. And Bob was playing, they were playing some stuff because they're always playing, and he like made it a point to go and take on the Dead's catalog and really learn it before he approached the idea of having a band be a thing. So like Mayer, he just from what I understand, it was not long before he started playing with him that he was like really got into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another guy that like, everybody has opinions about him, but he's such a student of music, and, and that's another. He's played with just about everybody at this point. Like, he's played with all the blues guys. He's played, with rock guys. He's played, with obviously the members of the Dead. Like, I mean, that's just it's another good guy who's out there, like, kind of carrying the torch for people. And he, he got his start, like, Room for Squares was his first album, and that was like all over the top 40 charts. And now, like, there's a whole different generation of people that have gotten to know him through the jam band type stuff, and have gained a level of respect for him that maybe they didn't find or they didn't discover when he was kind of doing his like pop stuff or alternative stuff in the early 2000s. So that's the thing. I mean, you can pivot anywhere you want, and you can never say, as he said, you can never say you don't like something. You just say you don't like it yet. And I've had those experiences too with like my own music. Like I never would have considered to get any enjoyment out of jam band stuff. In the same way, like I never thought I would like emo or pop punk. I just always thought that shit was way too whiny. And like here I am now, and it's like probably the genre that's affected me the most, behind like the grunge stuff that I really, really grew an affinity for in my late teens and early 20s. So you never know where the road's going to take you, and that's an asset, to accept that. And there's nothing's ever final.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I remember tons of stuff. I mean, and jam bands being one of them, like being in my early 20s and thinking I missed the boat. Yeah. Now it's 10 years into, you're 10 years into your relationship or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's I think you have plenty of examples too in your 20s where you're thinking about like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. And all of a sudden 10 years go by and you're like, oh, I actually was there at the start, or at least my start, but now it's been 10 years. I mean, I remember the Front Bottoms is a good one. Like, yeah. I thought I was late to that. Mm-hmm. Now, if you go to shows now, then you're one of the elder statesmen of sorts.
Exactly.
And, I'm sure you feel that with the Wonder Years. It's like, there's bands that like you have no idea and
that's why
where the road will go.
You can't be judgmental of people that are like just getting into something, and that's something that I think unfortunately plagues the grunge genre quite a bit. And there's always elitism that kind of creeps in, where it's like, well, I was there, in 91, and what could you possibly? But none of us are in a position to critique the ethics of what somebody's connection is, and nobody's responsible for being born later than something. Yeah. But if it's out there and you connect with it, like connect with it, and be proud of that, and carry that with you. And I think you got to be welcoming of people that are maybe a couple of laps behind you, because it's we're all in the big race together. So we gotta do what we can to finish and to keep going. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it goes for anything too. I think my brother just got an espresso machine, so he's getting into coffee and learning, and now he has more of an interest. I mean, I've told him a lot of stuff over the years, but now he has more of an interest, and I think you can feel the same, where it's like finally, now I'm ready to learn about and get into it, and then all of a sudden, all you can say on the other side is welcome. We're glad you're here, and here's what you missed, or here's what you should think about.
Yep. That's what it comes down to, man.
Yeah. So it's a hard time in music, and not even to get deep into the 10th anniversary of David Bowie, and that's a whole nother conversation of his individuality and what he did for music and pushing the boundaries. And I just think that the through line for these say 4 people was Zach, Dolores, and Bob, and the Dead, and David Bowie. They're all so unique, and they played music that they wanted to play, and they put their heart and soul into it. And the least we could do is give it the attention it deserves, and the gratitude, be grateful for it. Absolutely, man. I couldn't have said it better than that. So we said the prevailing emotion, I think, after all of this is gratitude. And there's a lot out there. The same thing, like your favorite album, the album that's going to be your favorite at the end of your life. Chances are you probably haven't even discovered it yet, or maybe it hasn't even been created yet. And that's an exciting prospect, and that's what it's all about. It is. So hopefully 2026 is a good year for music. I'm excited to listen and to be able to get a little deeper with some stuff. So hopefully you out there are thinking the same, because it's a special gift, music and songwriting. So let's not take it for granted, I guess. Yeah, absolutely. It can help in a big way when you least expect it. So, amen to that, man. All right, I think that wraps up some good conversation. Pretty much wraps up the main mortality mm-hmm. and immortality. So if we have a song of the week that you'd like to put out there, something that people can listen to,
Yeah, I do have one, and it's probably the first Grateful Dead song that I heard and that I decided that I liked, and it kind of started at the time. Certainly I got into this album at the time, but Ethan, do you remember the TV show Freaks and Geeks? I think it must have aired in like the maybe late 90s or early 2000s, but there was only 2 seasons, and I had a buddy of mine in college named Colin. He wrestled for Iowa State. He was a really, really good dude, and he loved that show, and he was always like you got to watch Freaks and Geeks, you got to do it. And finally, like I watched it, and it was such a good show, but the end, I don't know, I can't remember if it was the end of season 2, which was the end of the show, or the end of season 1. But they close. There's a whole plot line which it's faded in my memory, but I do remember that the episode closed with "Ripple" by the Grateful Dead playing, and that was off of the American Beauty album, which they released in 1970. And I remember hearing that, and I got into that album for a while. And this was back in, it must have been like 2016 or 2017, and it was kind of like my first connection with this band. And it's still one of my favorite songs from the Grateful Dead. So I'll include that as my song of the week.
That's awesome. Great show, by the way. I remember watching that through college. That was fun.
Yeah, it's such a good show, man.
A lot of old faces, young faces.
Yeah, dude, from the before times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my song, I'm definitely going to have to go to Box of Rain for this one.
2 from American Beauty. I like it.
Yeah, Phil Lesh wrote it, and he did write it about his father, who was battling cancer at the time. And I just had a close friend of mine that lost his dad soon after Phil passed away, and his dad had texted him, was like, "Box of Rain, listen to Box of Rain, Nicholas." And just because of obviously what Phil wrote about, and with Bob being lost to cancer or cancer related stuff, I think that Box of Rain is a good one. Phil sings on it, and it's just it's fun. And there's been there's versions in the past. It was one of his, when Phil passed away, a lot of them were playing it and tributes and whatnot. So it's a good one to feel connected, if you will.
Absolutely. I like it.
Very good. Oh. So that wraps up another episode. Thank you, everybody, for following along, being a diligent follower, listener, and hope you enjoyed the episode.
Right on. Thank you, Ethan. Appreciate the time. And we'll talk to you next week for episode 252.
God willing.
God willing, man.
Rock and roll, everybody.
Rock and roll, everybody.
Cheers.
Bonzo.